Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the practice of lesson number 10 from A Course in Miracles workbook for students. We start with this prayer to the Holy Spirit. We thank you, Holy Spirit, for being our true self. Thank you for presenting through our brother Jesus, which is a voice that we can recognize and love. And we thank you, Holy Spirit, for guiding all our brothers and sisters in the world. And we know that there is only one Son of God, and that is everyone. We are one Son of God. And we thank you, Holy Spirit, for being our remembrance of God. And quote for today from The Disappearance of the Universe, this Gary Bernard's book. We have this quote that belongs for lesson 10, and it's this one. It says from here: time seems to go in one direction, but when you reach its end, it will roll up like a long carpet spread along the path behind you and will disappear. As long as you believe the Son of God is guilty, you will walk along this carpet believing that it leads to death, and the journey will seem long and cruel and senseless, for so it is. And, I will reread it. Time seems to go in one direction, but when you reach its end, it will roll up like a long carpet spread along the path behind you and will disappear. As long as you believe the Son of God is guilty, you will walk along this carpet believing that it leads to death, and the journey will seem long and cruel and senseless, for so it is. And our lesson 10. We go to lesson 10. Lesson 10. My thoughts do not mean anything. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware in the practice periods. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before and will do so again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. This is the second time we have used this kind of idea. The form is only slightly different. This time the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts, and no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless, outside rather than within, and then stressed their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts means that you are not thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision. Close your eyes for these exercises and introduce them by repeating the idea for today quite slowly to yourself. Then add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. The exercises consist, as before, in searching your mind for all the thoughts that are available to you, without selection or judgment. Try to avoid classification of any kind. In fact, if you find it helpful to do so, you might imagine that you are watching an oddly assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. As each one crosses your mind, say, "My thought about does not mean anything. My thought about does not mean anything." Today's thought can obviously serve for any thought that distresses you at any time. In addition, 5 practice periods are recommended, each involving no more than a minute or so of mind searching. It is not recommended that this time period be extended, and it should be reduced to half a minute or less if you experience discomfort. Remember, however, to repeat the idea slowly before applying it specifically, and also to add, "This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe." And that is the end of lesson 10. My thoughts do not mean anything. Now we're going to do the practice. It's a minute practice, but before we start the minute, we have to repeat slowly the central idea or the title of the lesson. My thoughts do not mean anything. And the affirmation, which is here, "This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe." So we're gonna start slowly repeating, "My thoughts do not mean anything." And "This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe." This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. And we start our minute practice with closed eyes. Any thought that comes to your mind, you apply the idea. We start in 3, 2, 1. We close our eyes. My thought about does not mean anything. 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 And we finish our minute practice. And this minute practice or less, it says that if you find that 1 minute is much, you can do half a minute. And 5 days, 5 times during the day, 5 times. My recommendation is that during the day you think about the lesson and apply the lesson to whatever thoughts come to your mind. When you are doing something that doesn't involve much thinking, like washing the dishes, for instance, or driving, you can apply to the things that you are thinking, to your thoughts. My thought about that car is moving so fast does not mean anything. My thought about I'm washing this dish right now does not mean anything, etc. And to anything that is, it says that you can apply it to what stresses you during the day. So if you are preoccupied about something, you can apply it too if you're worried. My thought about, I don't know what to do with this situation does not mean anything. And even if you don't put the chronometer or the time, the watch, you just make the calculation for your minute and you do the 5 practices during the day. And just before you go to bed, remember to do your practice. Even if you have turned off the lights, you make your calculation for a minute or so and apply it to your thoughts. It's with closed eyes, so you close your eyes and you apply it, the lesson. And you can do it also with open eyes. What I just told you, that during the day remember the lesson, you can do it with open eyes. My thought about, because we think with open eyes, my thought about, I don't know what to do, does not mean anything. But remember to do your 5 practices this day. And thank you so much for joining, Marisol, Adriana, Ale, Margot. And have a nice day. Have an inspired weekend. As here it says, Ernesto Alfredo Ramírez Flores says, gracias por tu tiempo, Nina. Siempre escucho tus audios de UCDM. Eres una bendición. Gracias, Ernesto. You are a blessing as well. Thank you so much for joining and have a nice weekend. Bye bye.